What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of The Spiritual Word. I almost said Can of Heaven again. Or not again, but like, almost said Can of Heaven. Anyways, before I start these, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only and to always do your own research, to come to your own conclusions, to make your own decisions, to have your own answers, and I believe in your ability to be your own person and to do so. And I'd like to start this off by stating that I apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. So I want to talk about a dream that I had last night. I'm sorry if you can hear the plane going by. So I want to talk about a dream that I had last night. And last night I had a really hard time falling asleep. And one of my intentions before I went to bed was to basically dream or have a dream where I'm talking to my guides, my angels, my deities, whatever is beyond me, teaching me, my higher self, my higher mind, whatever is teaching me. And I had a dream about different versions of myself and my reality and how I could be spending my time. And it was kind of like if you've ever seen that movie Everywhere, Everything at Once. I think that's what it's called. I'm not too sure. But it's basically this lady who um is like dreading her life, and then she basically runs into a different version of her husband who's trying to get her to save the world or save the universe. And the way that she does that is by jumping through different timelines, different versions of herself. And I don't remember exactly um the plots of each like of my versions of myself, but I do remember having the ability to jump through other timelines. And obviously your dreams are not like I don't believe that my dreams are like prophetic or anything of that nature. Like, I don't think that if I dream something, it's gonna happen, or if I dream something, that it's literal. I usually take it in the context of a metaphor, unless I know something to a T. Like, unless I'm getting direct information where it's like, this is how you do this, then I don't take it literally. And this dream I did take literally in the sense that you can timeline hop. And I'm one of those really weird, spiritual people who believes that you can spiritually hop through different versions of your experience or your reality, because I think that your reality is only not that it's only like a substance of your of your consciousness, but you only have the ability to perceive your reality through your consciousness. Like, for example, my cat has a different consciousness than I do. Therefore, even if she's not in my reality, even if she's not in the same room as me, she's still having her own experience. She's still living her own life through a different conscious um energy. And everything is conscious. So, because of that reason, I do believe that you have that ability to hop timelines, and not hop timelines in the sense of like you could just control your mind and like it's like Doctor Strange, but I do think that it can be maybe not to that degree of like I'm just gonna go into a different version of myself right here right now where I'm already rich and like I already have all this. Maybe. I don't know if that's true just because I've never gotten to that point of like level, but I also don't think that that's something that you have the ability to do so commonly. I feel like that takes years and 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 years of practicing specifically timeline jumping. And I don't think anybody is just specifically practicing their time on the concept of timeline jumping. But basically, how I want to explain this is like, regardless of whether or not I acknowledge the fact that there's another version out there of me in this sense of time and space, because we think of time as a line or like linear, and time is not linear. Time is kind of like a spiral. Like, I remember one of my friends told me that the older you get, the faster time goes. And I think it's because we're going in a spiral. Like, you're going into a spiral until you're basically like, when you flush a toilet, that's your consciousness until it gets to a point, and then that point is your death. And then you basically start all over again, because consciousness is not a resource that ever runs out, because consciousness is what creates everything. And the reason I believe in this taboo type of topic, or I wouldn't call it taboo, but I wouldn't call it like a really normal idea. Like, most people are not conceiving or thinking about the ability to jump to a different version of themselves. And I don't think it's that I believe in it because you can jump into different versions of yourself, or because I've experienced that, which I can talk about. But the reason that I believe in it is because consciousness is everything, and my perspective is only one of the things. It's only one of everything, and that to me is like so small. Like, we don't really know anything about anything, and for that reason, I think that this is a real thing that we all have the capability of doing, and I feel like we're already doing it. We're just not conscious of the fact that we're doing it. And so, basically, why I believe in this is because we're a little human on this big rock, and it doesn't make sense for us to limit our strengths, our abilities, our processes to just downplay ourselves. Like, I don't think that humans are that dumb of a species, and I feel like we play ourselves to be this dumb animal. And just because, like, we don't have it all figured out. And I think the fact that we don't have it all figured out is because the universe is huge. It's like we've only explored 20% of the ocean or something like that, or like 10% of the ocean. And because of that, I feel like that's what downplays us and our spiritual abilities, because I do think that we're constantly, like, I think that we're continuously, like, every second of our waking experience, experiencing multiple versions of ourselves all at once. Like, the fact that you don't know what you want to do today, or the fact that you do know what you want to do today, and it's something different than what you did yesterday. Your brain is not like a solid thing, and everything is vibration, right? Science literally says that everything is vibration, down to quantum, theory and quantum mechanics and everything like that. And because of that, you're already experiencing multiple different versions of yourself. And so I took this dream really literal, and I was like, okay, I'm always trying to kind of like expand my spiritual um concepts and expand my spiritual knowledge. Not to say that it's like fact, but I'm always trying to expand in some way and keep an open mind and do it in a positive and a more educational way for myself. Like, I really enjoy learning, so this is one of the things that I use to learn. Like, I use my dreams as a way to learn. And so what I gathered from this dream was that basically, if you want to go into different versions of yourself, which you're already doing it, you're just not conscious of the fact that you're doing it, is to be conscious of every single choice that you make, every single action that you make. Like, there's a different version of me that's not moving their hands. There's a different version of me that's not, you know, wearing this headset. And because of that reason, I'm conscious of the choices that I make, because I want to be this specific version of myself. And, because of all the choices that you make, it's not something that's like super duper bad. Like, it's not something bad if you're like, well, I want to be in this version of myself, but I keep making this choice, and this choice contradicts from that. But I think that there's like a little bit of kind of wiggle room when it comes to the choices that you're making and the way that it affects you and your perception and your creation of your physical reality. And the best way that I can describe what I mean is that, like, if you're somebody who has a really hard time with, I don't know, like a substance, or if you're somebody who has a really hard time in the sense of like you need a companion. I know a lot of people who have problems with substance and who have problems like being single because they want the companion, and they don't ever get into a different version of themselves, or at least it takes a long time, right? That's why I say it's not bad, it's just your specific timeline And the way to accelerate your specific timeline is to make conscious decisions. And it's not easy to make those conscious decisions if you're not living into that version of yourself. Like, for example, people who are really self-disciplined, they can jump in and out of timelines the way that they fucking please. Why? Because they have, like, their consciousness is in control already. They are conscious of what they're putting into their body. They're conscious of what they're using. They're conscious of the words that they're using. They're conscious of every single action. And because of that reason, they have the ability to, like, I've watched people with really, really good self-discipline go from being overweight to being stupid fit. And to me, that's like a really huge indicator of, like, okay, you're consciously shifting your vibration continuously, and you know how to do it, and you're already doing it, which is why you're probably not into these type of subjects or anything like that. But I've always been very observant, because I feel like something that I listened to the other day, I was watching um Bashar, or Daryl Inca. I don't know how to say his last name, don't cover me, okay? And he talks about how our physical brain is not capable of having, or making, or creating a decision, or creating a question. And what is capable of creating the question, the scenario, whatever the case is, of creation, is the higher mind. And so it's not your body making choices or making decisions. It's what people like to call their spirit, their soul. And so your soul is not just your soul. It's everybody's soul. It's everything's soul. That's consciousness. And because you are living through the consciousness, most people who take care of their soul, like, who literally talk about, oh, well, I'm doing this because my soul, like, I just needed a refresher, or I just needed a break, or I just needed to, like, take care of my soul, mind, body, soul. People who talk about their souls and, like, talk about their spirit, and, who are aware of those things in themselves, because obviously we're not just a body, we're not just a mind, we're not just a soul, we're all three. And people who are really conscious of that are going to make decisions towards benefiting their lives. And if you're already able to do that, you're already having the power of manipulation at your fingertips. And everybody has the power of creation, because you're everything. And because of that, it's hard to linearly describe how to shift timelines. And shifting timelines isn't something that you're like, okay, I'm right here, I'm going to jump to the next one. It's not like that. It's like your consciousness, there's like a grid, right? There's a continuous line, there's a continuous rows and columns of different versions of yourself. And your specific consciousness is just going through that physical structure. It's like if I had a net right in front of you, my my timeline, or like my soul, or like whatever you yourself believe that is in charge of your body, or whatever creates decision making for you, whatever you believe in, that's going through that specific thing. And if you want it to match up with one of those, you have to match up with the idea of that version of yourself. Like, for example, you have to think about, just pretend, right, for the sake of jumping to a different timeline, let's pretend you wanted to be in the version of yourself that's like the perfect history teacher. What would that version of you already be doing right now? That's how you match up. That's how people manifest. That's how people get into alignment with themselves. That's how people jump timelines. It's all in this melting pot. Like, it's all like, it's all in this melting pot. The best way that I can describe it is like every single piece of knowledge that you find is like a new ingredient to put into this big soup. And once you find the soup, you're like, oh my gosh, I know the recipe for this soup. Let me try to help somebody else figure out the recipe, so that they know, even though they have to figure it out for themselves, right? Like, they have to figure out the temperature, they have to figure out, you know, how much water to put. They have to figure out, they have to be watching it, they have to be stirring it. Like, they have to care about this thing. But just to conclude this, my dream was very, one, it was very exciting, and I tried to focus on the feelings that come from my dreams rather than like the actual plot of the story and like what happened in the story. Just because the plot and the story and the characters is something that you can forget, but the feelings is not something you can forget. So what I experienced in this dream was that it was a lot of fun. It was very exciting, and I was very emotionally like into it. Like, I was like, oh, this is fun. And from the feeling of having fun, it led me to a point where I'm like, okay, I know, maybe not know to a T how to jump timelines, but I know a process that could help me. And it's what everybody talks about when you get into alignment, or it's what everybody talks about when you get into sync with your higher mind or your higher self or God or your soul or whatever you believe in. And when you are in sync with the power of creation, you create miracles. Why? Because the higher mind is what creates this reality. Your mind just perceives this reality. And your mind is not what's creating reality. Like, it's not. I didn't have this idea to be like, or better yet, let me put it into like regular terms. If me and the monkey are kind of the same thing, I'm looking at my cat through the window. If me and a monkey are literally the same thing, maybe not identically, right? We're not identical in the sense of DNA. But if I evolved from a monkey, then how come monkeys don't have the ideas, the creations that we have? And it's not because they're not sentient, and it's not because they don't think, and it's not because they don't feel, because obviously they have those things. But what sets us apart from that is that we are the observer of this experience. We get to perceive this from the outside, even though we're in it. You know what I mean? Like, I am the monkey, I am the trees, my soul is everything. And for that reason, I get to sit here and be a human being and get to look at it from an outside point of view, because that's the only way I'd experience what being a monkey is like. Because if I'm a monkey, I don't have the capability of thinking through the higher mind. And obviously, you do have the capability of thinking through the higher mind. It's just a little bit harder because there's nothing there to educate you. There's nothing there to be like, okay, look at this, look at this. You only go off of impulse and instinct, and your body is the only thing. Like, I feel like people don't really understand the concept of like, it's there for a purpose. Like, I was studying Buddhism for a little bit, and they talk about how the animal realm is a part of like a higher version of hell, because you live in fear constantly. And I think that being an animal is probably a hell realm, just because we trap them in zoos, and then we trap them in our houses, and then we put little cute, suits on them, or we put little sweaters on them, or cute little costumes on them, and they don't really have control. Like, they don't get to say, I don't want to do that. They don't have conscious choices, and because of that, I do think that that's hell, because we have free will, and if I don't like something, I have the capability to be like, okay, I'm not dealing with that. And an animal doesn't get to do that. And the reason that I bring that up is because you have to have you have to have sort of like an index of understanding these certain pieces to conscious reality for you to be as open-minded to the the idea that if you want to be in the version of yourself that feels the best to you, you have to already be that person. Because you have free will, it will continue to unfold for yourself, but only if you believe it, because if you believe it, then you will feel it in your body to be a truth. And because our body is just an observer of this reality, it doesn't necessarily create this reality, but it does tell you, okay, there's a little bit of truth here. Like the fact that I'm sitting in this car right now tells you that I'm sitting in a car right now because you're observing it. And because I feel it to be true, then it's even like it's more truthful because I'm observing it. Or at least to me, like if you try to convince me that I wasn't in a car, am I going to believe you? Probably not. Why? Because I literally feel the chair underneath me. And when you're having this conscious capability of being like, okay, today I'm going to believe in doing this, so we're going to propel the idea of doing this. It's kind of like when you have a movie, or like when people act in movies, or whatever, they're on a set. The thing isn't real itself, but these actors are creating this version of themselves to match this character. And so the character physically comes to life through them because they're creating it. And that's the point of timeline jumping. That's the point of being able to go into different versions of yourself. You have to just, not that you're faking it because it's already a real thing, but you're using things that will help you make it more real for you. And the more real you can make it for yourself, the easier you're going to have a time that you're going to have in creating this thing. So, with that being said, I'm gonna end this here and just end this on a note to say, if you don't believe in all of these topics, obviously take everything that I say with a grain of salt. This is just for entertainment purposes only. And if you do believe in what I'm saying, do your own research to come to your own conclusions, to have your own answers, to be your own person. And I believe in your ability to do so. You've gotten this far, and I don't see why you wouldn't get farther. So, with that being said, I want to just take a moment to appreciate you for being here and tuning in and tapping in. I upload Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. So, spirituality is something that you're interested in, science is something that you're interested in, consciousness is something that you're interested in, spirituality is something, I think I said that twice. Psychology is something that you're interested in, then I recommend subbing or following if you feel entitled to, so, or like if you feel enticed to. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in and tapping in. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.